What's coming is a portrait of a personality, not mine. If it seems unnatural to you, too strange to be true, believe it. It's happened many times, and it will happen again, and again, and again. If not exactly like this, then enough like it to matter. I am stuck here in a strange loop. It feels like I'm going forward, moving on. I get to the end of my story and it's an illusion. I am here again, back where I started, every time. He always comes back for me, wherever I am. And though I try each time, I can't escape him.
It's you, Joss. I can't believe it.
Goodness. Hello.
Jocelyn, it's me. You do recognise me?
Of course, I was surprised.
Oh, sorry. I shouldn't have leapt out at you like that. I was being silly.
Not at all, it's just people don't leap up at me much in town.
Of course. I suppose you're a proper townsman now.
A man of the world, I hope. Here, this is how a gentleman greets a lady in London. There. And how does little Alice do after so long?
Very well. All the same, really. You'll find the whole island almost exactly as you left it, I'm sure.
It's certainly further away from civilization than I remember, but I have missed the smell of the sea. It's very beautiful here. I'd forgotten how beautiful. You certainly have grown more beautiful.
Wouldn't know how you mean.
I'll have to sculpt you sometime. You could be Venus, perhaps.
Not I.
A nymph, maybe.
I'm not worth the marble, I'm sure.
We'll see. And my mother and father, are they well? They only ever send good news, so I can't be sure.
Oh, they are very well. They talk about you all the time.
Really? I should have come to visit more often. I have probably been a rotten, prodigal kind of son, I think.
Oh, no. Nothing like that. They never speak a bad word of you. Everyone here adores you.
Really? Well, that cheers me up a little, though I still think you are being kind, Alice.
It's the truth, I swear.
Well, if you say so, then I must believe it. You know, I should have greeted you more warmly just now. I forgot I was back home. I'll never forgive myself if you think us of anything other than the best of friends, just as we were before.
Always, Joss.
You don't have to call me Joss, though, actually. Most people call me Jocelyn now. It might be a bit confusing.
Oh, I see. Of course. Sorry, Jocelyn.
I ought to carry on to my father's house, but you will join us for supper soon, won't you?
That would be wonderful. Whenever you like, just say and I'll make the time.
Excellent. Well, farewell for now.
Farewell.
Avis, why are you running away from me?
I wasn't. I was daydreaming. I couldn't
Come,
hear you.
dear Avis, for dear is what you are. Won't you come speak with me? You've been avoiding me all week, you know.
No, not that. I'm busy, that's all. I have to... For my mother. I...
Ah. Well, if I'm a bother to you then.
Wait, Mr. Pierston. I didn't mean to seem angry with you.
All I wanted to know was whether you still cared for me, as you once did. Very well.
No, Jocelyn. Stop. It's
What? Have your feelings changed?
no.
Look, forgive my coldness to you when I first arrived. I'd forgotten how I felt for you. It never went away, I'm sure.
What do you exactly want from me?
I want to say to you what I've never said to any woman, living or dead.
What is that?
I want to ask you if you'll have me for your husband. Well?
Mother says I should be careful. She says that I'm only one of many.
That's not true. Besides, you knew me when I was young, as others didn't.
Can I think about it?
I tell you what, I'll meet you this afternoon. Walk to the lighthouse together. How about that?
I have to recite this afternoon.
You have to recite?
Poetry. For the village.
Entertainment.
Yes, we started a few months ago.
They stopped the dances.
The violinist died. We're reciting now, till someone else learns how to play.
Who'd have thought anyone down here would have the inclination to recite? Except, of course, the greatest reciter of them all.
Who's that?
Ah, the never speechless sea.
That is quite poetic, Jocelyn.
I often recite poetry, read poetry also. You know,
You should recite for us sometime.
well,
We have grown quite intellectual now. I'm sure they'd all be so glad, and you have such a beautiful voice. But don't come to the recital tonight, will you?
you don't want me there.
I'd be shy to have you watch me. It would spoil my performance, and I want to be as good as the rest.
Well, if you insist, then I won't go. But I shall meet you at the door and bring you home first thing afterwards.
Yes, please. That would be lovely.
Then it's agreed. And think on what I said, will you?
I will.
Well, farewell.
A word upon the well-beloved of Jocelyn Pierston, sculptor. Since he began his training as a sculptor, Jocelyn Pierston had adored one woman and one woman alone, his well-beloved. To her he had always been faithful, but she had had many embodiments, each individually known as Lucy, Jane, Flora, Evangeline, or whatnot, had merely been a transient version of her. He offered this not as an excuse or a defense, but as a simple fact of nature for which he was not personally responsible. She was, perhaps, of no tangible substance. A spirit, a dream, a frenzy, a conception, an aroma, an epitomized sex, a light of the eye, a parting of the lips. God only knew what she really was. Pierston did not. She was indescribable. Since discovering her existence and beginning his quest to locate her, Pierston had often dreamt of her, imagining at times that she was Venus herself, contriving to torment him. He knew that she loved to masquerade in various guises, whether blue eyes, black eyes, brown eyes, whether tall, fragile, or plump. She was never in two places at once, but hitherto she had never been in one place long. Whether she would ultimately settle down to one, he could not say. And as for the island girl, when he wandered with her, spoke with her, bargained with her for a kiss, and when she finally agreed that she would marry him, the question hovered at his ear. Did he see the well-beloved in Avis at all?
Excuse me.
Avis?
No, I'm sorry.
I beg your pardon. I thought you might be someone else.
I'm afraid I'm just myself.
And who is that, if you don't mind me asking? You're not an islander, are you?
Well, that's a matter of perspective. Do you know what time it is?
7:15.
Thank you. I wonder, this is terribly wicked of me, but I wonder if you couldn't lend me just a small amount of money for a day or two. I wouldn't ask, but I've left my purse at home and am in something of a difficult position.
It's £5.
Thank you. Thank you, it's quite enough. Oh, heavens.
We must take shelter.
But where?
This way. I know a place. Here.
Is it safe? It looks like it might crumble and fall down at any moment.
If a stone should fall your way, I'll fling myself between the two of you, but this is rather a desolate place for a woman to find herself alone at night.
I'm not alone though, am I?
I suppose not. I hope nothing serious has happened that you'd find yourself dragged out so late.
Well, I'm not going back.
Well, who are you? What brings you to the island?
This is my home. What brings you to the island?
I grew up here. How could it be that I haven't met you before? What's your surname? There is only 3 or 4 surnames here. You're not a Carr, I don't think. You have an altogether different look about you. You're not a Pierston like me, at least I hope you're not.
Have you heard of the Best Bed Stone Company?
Certainly I have. They tried to ruin my father by stealing his customers, at least the founder did, old Bencombe. What is it?
Old Bencombe is my father.
Oh, well then I'm sorry to have spoken disrespectfully of him. I never did meet him in person. Well, my father carved an ugly picture of him to me that may have been untrue to life.
Not at all. It sounds like your father is an excellent sculptor indeed.
Well, he retired to London, did he not?
Yes, South Kensington. But we're renting the castle here for a time.
The castle? That's near my father's house. A far humbler dwelling, I'm afraid.
I am sorry for it. I didn't realise my father had actually ruined a man.
Well, I wouldn't say ruined. Dented his income, perhaps.
He's always scolding me for my extravagances. As if one little instance of my exceeding my allowance just a bit were the evilest feat a person could perform.
Is that why you left home this evening? He reprimanded you?
Yes. I pretended to retire to my room, but I crept out. And I'm never going home again.
Well, where will you go?
To my aunt in London, if she'll have me. Or I'll work. I'll manage. I would have walked all the way to London if I hadn't met you.
In the morning, when the storm has passed, I'm sure you could catch a train. You may have to get a boat to the mainland if the sea has risen over the land bridge, though.
That's what I'll do.
So our fathers were bitter enemies.
It's funny, now that we've made friends.
Like Romeo and Juliet. There is a place I know, an inn by the harbour. I'm sure they'll have a room for you there.
That sounds preferable to staying here.
I could come with you, show you the way.
Yes?
In fact, I have a better idea.
What's that?
Why don't I go with you in the morning?
To London?
Oh, yes, certainly. I have friends there.
But what will you do?
I'll set up my own business. My father doesn't need me here, and instead of going to your aunt's, will you come and marry me? Well,
That's ridiculous.
your father wouldn't be able to reclaim you then, would he? You know all about me, at least you know plenty enough, and I know all about you. Our families have been neighbours on this isle for, hundreds of years. We have plenty in common. And I think we're both better suited to the town than living on this rock like fishermen.
Do you think... Will you ever be a Royal Academician?
I hope to be. No, I will be. If you will be my wife. Think what a way out of your difficulty this would be. No bother about aunts, no fetching home by an angry father.
How long will it take to marry?
Or we could do it the day after tomorrow, if I fetch a license right away.
I won't go to my aunt. I'll be an independent woman. I have been reprimanded as if I were a child of 6. I'll be a wife, if it's as easy as you say. My name is Marcy, by the way. What's yours?
Jocelyn.
Mrs. Jocelyn Pierston. Think of my father's face. I am decided.
Let's go to the inn then, since we're now as good as man and wife.
Yes, let's.
My first embodiment was a girl of 8 or so, one of a family of 11. After you had kissed me, and just before my family left the isle, little Laura had gone forever. I was out horse riding, and I noticed you watching me and smiled. Elsie. You complimented my daughter's beauty, particularly her fine eyes. But I kept on returning. You were puzzled. And did I? And now you will marry Miss Marcia Bencombe. And you do think that's wise? I think a man in your predicament should marry no one. If anyone, little Avis Paro. But not even her. You are fickle, like other men. Only you are rather worse. Is that so? You ought not to marry.
Where we start now. Jocelyn, there you are. I was coming to find you. How long you've been away?
Oh, never mind, darling. It's all arranged. I have the license. We shall be able to marry in a few days.
Not tomorrow.
Can't tomorrow. We haven't been here long enough.
Well, how could they know that?
Well, I forgot that a residence, real or assumed, was necessary, and unfortunately admitted that we'd only just arrived.
Well, that was stupid. But it can't be helped now. I think, though, dear, that I should have known better if I had gone.
We are going to marry, dear, so it's not important.
Yes. A sudden resolve it was of ours. I wish I could get my father and mother's consent.
Their consent? I thought you didn't care about their consent. That was the whole point of us running away.
I've changed my mind. As we can't complete it for another day or two, a letter might be sent to them and their answer received. I have a mind to write.
Is that wise, dear?
What do you think, I cannot handle my affairs with wisdom?
Of course, but
Do you mean to tell me I am stupid?
no, not at all.
Well then.
Look, let's have a drink or something, and we'll think it over first.
I don't need to think it over, Jocelyn. Since we are obliged to delay it, I will not marry without their consent.
Very well. Right then, here, have a pen and paper with me.
No, I cannot do it. I can't bend my pride to such a job. Will you write for me, Jocelyn?
Me? I don't see why I should be the one, particularly as I think it premature.
But you have not quarrelled with my father as I have done.
Well, no, but there is a long-standing antagonism between our families, which would make it a bit odd for me to be the writer. You know, wait till we are married, then I promise I will write.
Then I'll have to do it. You don't know my father. He might forgive me marrying into any other family without his knowledge, but he thinks yours such a mean one, and so resents the rivalry that he would never pardon me for stooping to become a Pierston.
I'm sure my father feels quite the same about me marrying a Bencombe.
Well, there are plenty of men who would happily marry me. I had a letter from one of them this morning.
What? From who?
A young gentleman from Jersey. I doubt you know him. I made him promises which it would have been polite of him to forget. He says he's going to follow me here to claim me.
Marcia?
Don't get angry. What shall I do?
Do? Isn't it obvious what you should do? Write to him and tell him as soon as possible that you're on the point of marriage to someone else.
Well, there's no need for that tone of yours. I've only done half of what you've done.
Oh, and what's that?
I've only proved false through forgetfulness. Or you have while remembering.
Oh, yes, of course, because you can use Aviscaro as a retort. You know, I should have never told you about that. But don't vex me, Marcia, and make me regret leaving her behind, because she was very pretty, you know.
Perhaps that was a foolish girl to run away from my father for a little scolding.
Well, I did advise you to go back, Marcy.
Not properly. You spoke most contemptuously of my father's honesty as a merchant.
Knowing what I know, I could hardly have spoken otherwise.
What have you to say against him?
Oh, nothing. To you. Besides, everybody knows that at one point in time, he made it the business of his life to ruin my father.
That miser ruined by an open-handed man like my father. Those misrepresentations are the fault of the Pierstons. It's your father's fault that we all thought badly of.
Do you want me to give you every detail? The getting of the quarries one by one, how my father only held his own by the most desperate courage and could not be bullied out of it. Now, how we're ever going to get over this ugliness between our families, I don't know.
I don't think we shall get over it at all.
We may not.
Unless you beg my pardon for having behaved so. I am beginning to think it was a good thing that Romeo and Juliet died when they did. They were not split apart by the enmity of their parents.
We were too rash, too unadvised, too sudden, too like the lightning.
I think I will go to my aunt.
I think you should.
Sir, I don't believe we've met. May I join you? I am avoiding someone.
Certainly. I'm actually seeking someone out.
And who is that?
I'm not sure yet.
I see. What is your name?
I'm Jocelyn Pierston.
The sculptor? Harriet! Harriet! She can't hear me. Well, my sister was only saying a few minutes ago what an eligible bachelor you are.
Am I? I wasn't aware.
Well, she'd certainly be very keen to be your model, if you ever need a somewhat surly Venus.
Her? A Venus?
But do you not think her beautiful?
Oh, greatly so, but who ever heard of a goddess of beauty with a prettier sister?
That was well spoken. You can have my name. It's Nicola. Nicola Pinehaven.
I'm charmed, in truth. I have somewhat neglected living beauty these past years.
I suppose that women carved in stone are better objects of desire than we originals.
Sometimes that does seem so, until the icon of our love appears to us in soft, yielding flesh, at a dinner party perhaps, or else a bench beside a pond in the bank across the street. How then can we resist it?
You have seen me reading in the park.
Once or twice.
What a coincidence. And now here we are, as close to one another as if you had your chisel in your hand. That's dinner. Would you come and sit by me?
Well, if you insist. From the island?
You'll be sorry to hear, sir, that dear little Avis Caro, as we used to call her in her maiden days, is dead. She married her cousin, you remember, but was widowed a 12-month ago, after which she faltered and faltered, and now she is gone.
Mhm. Tell them I must go.
Oh, Avis. Forgive me. Forgive me. Avis? Can't be. Avis Caro.
And, sir, Avis was my mother.
You look just like her. She didn't give you your name.
No, sir. Same last name, though. Poor mother married a cousin.
As everyone does here. I cannot call you Anne. It will confuse me. I knew your mother. I came to pay my respects. Where do you live, second Avis?
Just there.
With whom are you living?
With no one, sir. I'm an orphan now, and my brother was lost at sea. The other is in America, but I have had no word from him in weeks.
Oh, that must be very lonely for you.
I have company enough at the castle. I'm a maid there. The young men help me wring the big sheets out. Everyone's very friendly.
How old are you, Avis?
19, sir. Did you know my mother when she was my age?
Yes.
Are we much alike?
You're like her ghost.
I hope I do not upset you. Were you good friends?
Oh, that and more. I'm Jocelyn. I'm Jocelyn Pierston.
Oh, one of the Pierstons. They've been good to the Caros.
Then your mother hasn't spoken of me.
I'm afraid. I don't know. Perhaps she did. I was never as attentive to her as I should have been.
Perhaps you have more spirit than she did.
I suppose so. I should hurry back. I have some chores to do before I head to the castle.
Of course, yes. Is there anything I can do to help you or anything?
I'll be quite all right. Thank you, sir. I expect I'll see you again if you are staying on the island.
I'll make sure of it.
Good day, sir.
Good day. Avis.
Who is it?
It's Anne Caro, sir. I heard you wanted to speak to me.
Anne. Yes. One moment. Come in. Hello, Anne Avis.
It's you. I didn't know.
No, well, I couldn't find a satisfactory room anywhere else, and when I heard the castle was free to rent, I thought I'd settle here for a month or two.
You wanted to see me?
Yes.
Was there a particular reason?
Yes. I wanted to talk to you about my laundry. You are in charge of that, am I correct?
I am, sir.
You see, I am something of a particular person.
And I don't like any preparation of lime to be used on my clothes.
No, sir, I won't. I don't know folk use lime.
Sometimes, perhaps more often in town, I would not have my shirts mangled in the past. I've had buttons squashed.
I haven't got a mangle.
Excellent. Also, I object to the use of borax in my starch.
I don't put any. I don't know what it is.
No? Well, well, you will be very useful to me while I'm here. You live nearby?
Very near, sir.
Then I shall want you at least once a day, for I have not brought much in the way of linen.
I will.
You must let me know if you're planning to miss a day for any reason. Perhaps you're reading poetry in town.
Reading poetry?
You not? Your mother did. I hope that you resemble her in education and refinery as you do in appearance.
I've never been much of a reader, sir. It's a fair bit of work for me, sir, if you don't mind.
Oh no, of course. I will see you tomorrow again, Alice.
Goodbye, sir. Are you looking for me, sir?
Alice?
When you were following me to Street O'Wells 2 hours ago, I looked round and saw you, huddled behind a stone. You brushed by my frock and didn't see me. And when on my way back along, I saw you waiting here again. I slipped over the wall and ran past you.
Why'd you do that, you elf?
That you shouldn't find me.
Not exactly a reason.
Was because, well, I was worried you would ask to be my young man.
What a wild thought of yours. Suppose I did. Wouldn't you have me?
Not for long. No feeling between a man and a woman can last long.
Well, you say that as if you've loved many times. Have you?
If I tell you, you won't laugh at me or tell anybody else.
Never.
I have loved 15 already.
15.
Yes, I am almost ashamed to say it. I get tired of my lovers as soon as I get to know them well. What I see in one young man soon leaves him and goes into another yonder, and I follow. I can never catch him.
My one of them.
You were, for a week, when I first saw you.
Only a week.
About that.
And what made your fancy forsake my form and go elsewhere?
Well, though you seemed handsome and gentlemanly at first,
Yes.
I found you too old.
You are a candid young person, you know that?
But you asked me, sir.
I did. And having been answered, I won't intrude upon you any longer. So cut along home fast. It's getting late.
Good night, sir.
Good night. Wait, Avis. I wanted to ask you something. I walk to the rock where lovers mark their names and have for generations. I was walking to see if I could find any old friends of mine. Did I see your name there? Anne Caro. That was you, wasn't it?
It was.
The name, Isaac. I meant to ask you if you had a sweetheart, but I think perhaps you must have long forsaken him.
Quite so. Though I loved him truly at the time.
Do you not think, Avis, that it's better to try and love one person constantly? Could you ever, do you think?
I don't think so. Mother was like that. She had a very sad life for some time when she was as old as I. I should not like mine to be as hers.
What do you mean?
Well, her young man proved false to her because she wouldn't agree to meet him one night, and it grieved her almost all her life. She would never name his name, but I know he was a wicked, cruel man, and I hate to think of him. Is it any wonder I have grown up as I have? I suppose it is wise of me to be so changeable, if men are just the same. Good night, sir.
Good night. Avis? Avis, what on earth's the matter?
I can't tell you.
You have a new sweetheart, don't you?
Yes, of course.
And have you told him how ill you treat your lovers?
I thought I might stick to this one.
I suppose he's a wonderful sort of fellow.
Good enough for me.
So handsome, no doubt.
Handsome enough for me.
Refined and respectable.
Refined and respectable enough for me.
Why are you weeping?
It has to do with my own changeableness. The rest is the secret of someone else.
I'm sorry for that.
I'm getting to care for one I thought I ought not to think of, and it means ruin. I ought to get away.
You mean from the island?
Yes.
Would you like London?
How could that be?
I've been thinking that you could come to my house and make yourself useful in some way. I rent one of those new places called flats, which you may have heard of. I have a studio at the back.
I haven't heard of them. I can polish furniture, perhaps.
I haven't much furniture, but you can clear away plaster and clay messes in the studio. Any help in modelling, perhaps? I have yet to sculpt a satisfactory Venus.
Only for a time.
As short as you like, and as long.
Can we go now?
This moment, if you wish. Leave the laundry. Oh, Avis, what is this you've done to alarm me so?
Done?
Where have you been? In the future, you ought not to be absent for more than 10 minutes.
Well, there's nothing for me to do. And I thought I should like to see a little of London. So when I got the stamps, I went out into the fashionable streets where the ladies are all walking about, just as if it was daytime.
Oh, Avis, you must not go out like this. Don't you know that I'm responsible for your safety? I am bound by law and morals, and I don't know what all to deliver. You touch your native island without a scratch or a blemish, and yet you indulge in such midnight vagary as this.
They were all dressed in the latest fashion, and the gentlemen were ever so polite to me.
You must not do it again. You know nothing of men, nor whom you should trust, nor whom you should love. Stay and talk to me. I haven't mentioned it, not once. I haven't pestered you on that account.
On what account?
on account of your ridiculous attachment.
Which one?
Which one? To Isaac, to this common quarryman.
I'm a foolish girl.
You said there was another, and that was why you fled the island. You haven't told me, and I haven't asked, though I've nearly bitten off my tongue. If it is a man who is a little older than yourself, that's no reason for this coyness. Perhaps he loves you for your youth and sweetness. Perhaps he'd make a better husband than a boy.
Well, I think he is only very slightly older than I am.
How old do you think he is?
25, perhaps? Oh, he's not 30.
I'm sure he'd find that very flattering to hear, but you must not be much surprised to find that men of 35 or even 40 can appear as young men, if they're made young again by love.
Well, I don't think that a man of 40 would be in the army as a new recruit.
In the army?
Yes, he's a soldier.
Who?
The man I love. The man for whom my heart left Isaac. I couldn't help it.
What's the nature of your dealings with this soldier?
Well, I've never spoken to him. I very did before we came on.
Is that all? This is a passing fancy, my darling, sweet little Avis. Why don't you marry me and live here with me always and ever?
Oh, Mr. Pierston, what nonsense!
Why? Am I too old? Surely there's no serious difference.
I didn't realise you were thinking of that. And all alone here. Oh, what shall I do?
Say yes, Avis, and we will go out and get married at once and nobody will be any of the wiser.
I couldn't, sir.
You don't like me, perhaps?
I do, very much, but not in that sort of way.
Well, then try. Try. Your mother did.
Mother loved you.
Yes.
You were not her false man, surely. The one who ran away from her. Then I can never like you again. I didn't know it was a gentleman. I thought...
It wasn't a gentleman back then.
Oh, sir, please go away. I can't bear the sight of you at present.
No. I'm damned if I'll go away. I've been candid with you. You ought to be the same with me.
What do you want me to tell?
Enough to explain why you don't accept this offer. I'm not angry with you. I just...
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not. Now, what's your reason?
It is Isaac Pierston, whose name you saw on the rock.
What about him?
He courted me and led me to the island custom, and then I went to the chapel one morning and married him in secret, because Mother didn't care about him, and I didn't either by that time. And then he quarrelled with me and went away to Guernsey. Then I saw a soldier and I tried not to think of him, but it made me cry that I shouldn't. Then I came to London because I was miserable and didn't care what I did with myself.
Oh, heaven above us, why didn't you tell me this before? You are the wife of a man who is in Guernsey, whom you don't love at all because you're in love with a soldier. While I've nearly brought scandal upon us both by you letting me love you. Oh, really, you are a very wicked woman.
No, I'm not. Even if I hadn't married Isaac, I couldn't have married you after you told me what you did to my mother.
I've paid the penalty. Men of my sort always get the worst of it somehow. I never did your mother any harm, not serious harm. Well, this first thing, get out my home, get your husband brought to you.
I don't like him.
Why did you marry him?
I was obliged to, after what had passed between us.
In 1 hour, you will be ready to travel back again.
I say I don't want to.
But I say you shall.
Come in.
Oh, good morning. I'm sorry, I must have the wrong house.
Do you not recognise me, Jocelyn? I'm Marcia. Well, Marcia after 40 years.
Heavens. So it is. I never thought I'd see you again. The last time we spoke was...
Oh, goodness, let's not recall too closely the last time we spoke.
You must be a friend of Anne Caro. What a coincidence, my meeting you here.
I was expecting you. I'm afraid I've got some bad news, Jocelyn. Anne Avis died yesterday morning.
What? Was there an accident? 40's too young to die.
We think it was a cancer. There was nothing could be done.
I thought we might be friends again.
You never married, did you, Jocelyn?
No, never. Avis dead. She sent me a letter. She said she wished to see me.
I believe she was hoping you would be a guardian to her daughter. She now being orphaned with no living relatives to speak of. We think perhaps her uncle is alive in America, but wherever he is not thought of his sister in years and likely does not know that he has a niece.
How old is the girl?
Not yet 20. The very likeness of her mother. As sweet a girl as ever lived.
I see. And what about you, Marcia? What are you doing, entangled in this unlucky line?
I've had my share of romance and adventure. I married a Frenchman and left him. I want nothing now but peace and pleasant company. It was a whim of mine to come back here, and when I did, who shall I find? A woman called Anne Avis Pierston, a name that struck a chord with me. I thought that you had done the proper thing and gone and married your first sweetheart. It wasn't quite that though, was it, Jocelyn?
No. Well...
I know the whole story. How you courted her because you couldn't have her mother. Perhaps there was some streak of kindness in me, unlikely, or else it was a kind of guilt, but I fell in love with her. I fell in with her and we became good friends. I have promised I will adopt young Avis the third, if you will not. You are better placed to help her now. Fortune turned her wheel on me somewhat aggressively since we last met. I hear you are the talk of London now, and I heir to a crumbling dynasty.
I didn't know the Bencombes had seen trouble.
No. Well, it was good of you not to watch it all with glee. My brother was not the man my father was. My other brother wasn't either. If I'd been a boy, the business might have been saved. No matter. I'm not exactly penniless. I will get by.
Truly, I am sorry for it, Marcia. I'm not a man who clings to grudges. Is the young Avis living here with you?
She is.
Can I meet her?
As soon as she returns. She's gone for a walk.
What's she like?
Quite lovely. She's very like her mother, yet far more refined in nature. Far better educated. Anne wished it so. I've been helping her with French.
Did she recite poetry? Her grandmother did.
She certainly reads it. I'm sure she could recite quite prettily if you asked her. She plays 3 instruments.
Her grandmother never did that. How long do you think it will be till she returns?
I could not say. She's a romantic soul, God help her. She likes to go out walking by the sea. Too close along the cliffs sometimes.
Oh, wait.
Do. Actually, while you're waiting, I've just remembered there is a letter Anne wrote before she died. I don't know what it says. She wouldn't let me write it up for her, and it's sealed. There. I will see about some luncheon for the both of us while we are waiting. There is a great deal I've wondered about you over the years. I'm sure we'll have plenty to say to one another.
Dear Mr. Pierston, if you are reading this, then I am very sorry, for it means that I am dead and without power to speak to you myself. I was never good with words. Forgive me for my customary bluntness. I haven't the time for pleasantries. Marcia Benkham, who has become a good friend of mine, has often discussed with me the possibility of your returning to the island. I think she has some lingering romantic notion that the two of you should find companionship again in your advancing age. She's often begged me to write to you, believing that I have the power to conjure, though I don't know why she would think so. She's plenty willful when the wind gets in the sail of an idea of hers.
It certainly is true. She hasn't changed then. Can't condemn her for it.
It has been our plan that she should marry you and put at last to rest the enmity between your families, and that the two of you should adopt my daughter for your own, now she is alone in the world.
That would be an unusual means of obtaining a wife and a child.
If this should be acceptable to you, I give my wholehearted consent. However, I think I understand you, Mr. Pierston, a little better than dear Marcia does. If your inclination is somewhat differently inclined, then I say only this. My daughter was named Avis, as you asked. She was raised and educated at my great expense to be the gentlewoman her mother could not be. She will never labour at the mangle or wear the thin soles of one lone set of shoes. She will be a gentleman's wife and will live, with whatever children she may have, in comfort and prosperity. This I have decided, at any cost. Yours faithfully, Avis II.
Hello? Hello there.
Is somebody there?
Yes, I can't see you. Keep talking.
I've met with an awkward mishap. I live near here. I'm not frightened really, but my foot has become jammed in a crevice of the rock and I can't get it out.
I think we can get the foot out, but we may have to lose the boot.
Oh, that's no matter. I have others at home. Thank goodness for that. I was fearing I should have to stay here all night. How can I thank you enough?
Do you need help getting home?
I'll be quite all right. It's a short climb up the hill and it's all grass after that. I shan't hurt my foot.
Forgive me. Your name is Avis, is it not?
How did you know? Have we met?
Well, not exactly, though I know you very well already. You see, I was a friend of your mother's. I used to live on the island. My name's Jocelyn Pierston.
Ah, indeed. Mother may have mentioned the name. How did you know her?
I was renting Sylvania Castle and she worked there as a laundress.
Was it long ago? Oh, how old was I?
It was some time ago. I can't recall exactly.
Perhaps we have met before. I often used to play in the castle grounds.
Perhaps. I called on Marcia today. I meant to say hello to you and for your mother's sake, but you did not come.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know. I was walking out.
Till nightfall.
Yes. Silly, I know.
Perhaps we can have tea tomorrow.
Oh, I have a little job as a governess. I'll be there for most of the day.
And perhaps in the evening.
Yes. Yes, that would be lovely. Thank you again.
It's my pleasure, dear girl.
Good night, sir.
Good night, Avis. Marcia?
Jocelyn, is that you?
Marcia, I have something very important to say to you.
Yes.
It's a sensitive matter. I hope you'll not look unkindly on me for it.
I expect I will, but go on.
I'm not an old man yet, am I?
Well, that is a matter of opinion. For a man of your age, you are certainly still very handsome.
Do you think so? And if you did not know me, would you guess that I was 60?
Perhaps I'd guess a little younger. You could be 50. You could easily be 55.
And is that the sort of age at which a man should think no more of love?
I should very much hope not, Jocelyn. I know I have not given up on the idea entirely.
Well, I think I must be very foolish. Perhaps the most foolish of men.
If it is foolish, then it is at least far from unnatural.
Oh, but I fear that it is unnatural, Marcia. Oh, but I fear that it is unnatural, Marcia. Most unnatural. I never knew another man to feel as I do.
Is that so? Well, perhaps you can make money as a marvel. The man who loved more than any other man in the world.
I do love more, Marcia, far more than I ever thought I could. One woman, this one woman who has haunted me all my life, and I fixed upon a form that never seems to age, but must return to me renewed and luminous, whilst I, like nature's joke, turn even more to winter in her sight.
Jocelyn.
I have this to return to you.
A boot.
Avis's boot. I met her last night. Her foot was trapped between two rocks.
I told her not to clamor so, and she didn't tell me the minx. I was the same at her age.
Marcia, I must marry her.
Who?
Avis, there, I've said it.
You want to marry Avis?
I know that it's very strange to think of such a match, but there's such space between us.
40 years!
I know, and yet this girl, I know her, Marcia. I know her because I knew her mother and her grandmother before, and because I think, been an unseen influence on her. Even as she, my beloved, has haunted my life for so many years.
I don't know what you mean, Jocelyn.
I'm home.
I must go quickly. She hasn't seen me yet, and I would have to speak to her first, persuade her of what a happy wife I'd make of her. My every moment, every penny would be spent to bring her joy. Tell her, Marcy. Tell her, please.
But can you not speak to her yourself?
It was dark last time when I met her. She would have been unprepared, better prepared. You must, Marcy, you must swear. Swear it.
All right, I swear it.
Thank you, dear friend. I go.
Was someone here? I heard a man's voice.
That was Mr. Pierston.
Oh, but I met him before. I thought he was coming for dinner tonight. Have I missed him?
He'll probably come back for dinner. It seems he forgot to ask.
He was so kind and so gentle to me, Marcia.
Avis, my dear, what do you think of Mr. Pierston paying his addresses to you? Coming courting, as I call it, in my old-fashioned way. Supposing he were to, would you encourage him?
To me? I don't want any addresses.
He's a man in society and would take you to an elegant house in London suited to your education instead of leaving you to mope here.
Well, that all sounds perfectly palatable, I suppose.
Excellent. Then give him some encouragement when he arrives tonight.
But I hardly know him. And if he likes me, it's his business to do any encouraging, I should think.
Well, he's coming and he likes you. There's your boot. For heaven's sake, Avis, why must you make a scene?
I'm not making a scene.
It really won't do. You must give us an answer. It's been a good month now, and you're ever stringing Mr. Pierston along.
I've done nothing of the sort. It isn't my fault that I cannot come home without finding him here.
I am so very sorry for her tone. Her mother raised her better.
And you are not my mother, and don't forget it. And neither am I.
Perhaps I should go.
No, we will have it out now and be done with it. Avis, here is Mr. Pierston, and he wishes to be your husband. He is much older than you, but in spite of it, that you will ever get a better husband, I don't believe. Come, he's a good man, a clever man, and a rich man.
He can't really wish me to.
My dear, how can you doubt it? Oh, sorry. Wait, it's fine, we'll cut it. Oh, Pico.
My dear, how can you doubt it? I would never press you to marry me as a favour against your feelings. Have I not been kind to you?
You have, sir. You've never wronged me. Yet there is such a gap between us.
That counts for little when you consider your own position and mine in comparison with his. A sculptor with a mansion and a studio full of statues and busts. You could take up the study yourself or be his model. Surely that life would suit you. Your education is wasted down here on this rock. Think what dividends it would begin to pay in town as a gentleman's wife.
Mother wished for me to better myself.
Why, I'm very sure she did.
If I may, Avis, your mother wished for you to marry me.
What?
It's quite clear in here, sweet angel. Your very education was intended by her to make a perfect wife for me. She could not marry me herself. She molded you to be mine in her place.
Is this true?
Only with your consent, of course, but I was her dying wish to have you settled and secured with one man who will love you more than any man could.
Marcy?
You'd better say yes, Avis, since everybody wishes it so.
So you will.
Very well.
So you will.
Whoa. Is it me? Very well. I see that it would be a wise thing, and that you and my mother wish it, and that Mr. Pierston wishes it, so
you will. Excellent. Excellent. You will look back on this day with happiness for the rest of your life, dear life. We'll rent Sylvania Castle. You'll live like a queen.
he loved my mother.
And your grandmother too.
Truly. And my great-grandmother.
Oh no, praise God. I suppose it's just as well you're marrying him, or he'd be after your daughter in 20 years.
Why, Marcy?
Some fancy of his. Who can say? He's always been peculiar in that regard.
I don't know why I said yes to him. You don't think it's right, do you? Do you, Marcy?
If your mother thought it was a good idea, then who am I to challenge her authority? She never did mention such a plan to me.
Perhaps she only meant it as a last resort.
Perhaps. Well, you've said you will, so there's no way out of it.
I could run away.
He would find you, or wait till you returned. He's been waiting for 40 years for you, my child.
But perhaps if there was someone else, some young soldier like you had, with a fine career, a good husband for me, my own age.
And is there?
No, but if there was, and if I ran away with him, it would have to be the end of it, wouldn't it?
Well, assuredly so. You'd better hie on down to the barracks and see if anyone is in the market for a hasty bride. In my experience, a soldier is more fearful of a lady wearing white than a fellow man drenched in red.
What if he wasn't real, Marcy?
I see what you mean, I think. Where would you go? There are not many hiding places on the island. Mr. Pierston may be settled in for good.
There's a family in Bath whose daughter I knew at school. They had been asking for a governess. A position such as that with my schooling and the rest, I think that I could do it.
If the position is still open to you, I don't want you going off without it's properly being settled and agreed. We'll set the wedding date as late as we can.
Will you really help me, Marcy?
Yes. For my sins. All right. Cut along now. Poor old Jocelyn.
Dear Mr. Pierston, how will you ever forgive me for what I have done? So deceitful it seems, yet till this night I had no intention of deceiving you, or my dear Marcia. I went to break things off with my old sweetheart, Mr. Levere. I had tried so hard not to love him any longer, but I cannot help it. He has persuaded me that I must marry no one else but him. We've gone away now for the ceremony. By the time you read this, we will be man and wife.
Marcia disappeared. She always leaves me one way or another. Marcia! Oh, Marcia! God damn you! What a day to go to town! No woman was ever ruined by me. That's more than can be said for some young men.
That is true. I very nearly was.
It was never the flesh, Marcy. It was always the soul. I've loved a flighty essence and been faithful to it all my life. See how I'm treated by her. Gone, as if she never existed. I'm not well, Marcia.
I'm sure I can nurse you better again.
I doubt it. Any word of them yet?
You're married now. It is certain. Happily so.
Easy enough to be happily married. They've not been wed a fortnight.
We didn't last that long.
You know, you don't look a day over 35.
Well, that is because it's lamplight and your sight is weak and I got good at painting my face. It is vanity, I know, but before I was widowed, I was many years older than my husband. If I went and washed my face, you could see that time has not disappointed you. Look.
It's very cruel of time to treat us so. To think that this face that I once kissed has been so changed by the rasps and chiselings, scourgings, bakings, freezings of 40 and viduous years.
I am sorry if I shock you, but the moth frets the garment somewhat in the interval.
Yes. Yes, Marcia. You are a brave woman. You have the courage of the great women of history. I can no longer love, but I admire you from my soul.
And it really is very clever that you don't look nearly as advanced in years as you are.
Perhaps I can be your next Venus.
No. No, I'm done with Venuses. I always failed to carve them right. I don't even want to visit a gallery again. I'm sick of beauty. Marcia, why don't we get married?
I beg your pardon.
I have no love to give, but such friendship as I am capable of is yours until the end.
I suppose it would be fitting if I became your wife at last, since I did promise it once. And it would keep you from ever chasing a girl of 20 years again.
Kindly don't remind me.
Well, I had better go and tell the vicar. Jocelyn, what a fool you are. I suppose we deserve each other.
When he dies, young art critics and journalists will say of him that he was a man not without genius, whose powers were insufficiently recognised in his time, but never a great master, even so. I am extinguished. You have given me up. Let go of me.
Let go of you?
You could not carve me. You could not find me. You could not love me in one form or any reasonable length of time. You know I'll always flee from you. Why conjure me to watch me run away again? I am a fantasy. Turn me loose to the wind. Let me go.
Never, my beloved.